読んで毒に届く間に響
This is
く
another widget that we just created.
声は
We can go back to the
風
game
を
mode, and here
通
we
すか
can just say
ら
U1 widget.
使おう
And again, add to viewport as well. Just like we know. We do. Hopefully all this made sense. So we're having two events. One of them is going to be called when the timer ends, right? This event, you lost event. The other event is going to be called by something else, and that is basically when our character overlaps with this whole box, this finish line box. So the other event is going to be essentially called by that. So what we can do is that we can go back to our finish line, and what we want to do from here is that we want to basically call the U1 event. But if I search for U1, you're going to see that we're not really seeing the U1 event right here. The reason for that is because content sensitive is turned on. If I just turn this off, you're going to see that U1
その先もずっと一緒にいたいと願うようにゃ
You can see that we're not really seeing the U1 event right here. The reason for that is because content sensitive is turned on. If I just turn this off, you can see that U1 is going to be right here. Perfect. But now for
Namae
all this, you're going to see that we're going to get an error because the target is basically the blueprint which has this event itself, and it's not this blueprint for sure because this blueprint doesn't have that event. The target is going to be essentially the game mode blueprint, right? So what we're going to do is that we're going to search for game mode underscore tutorial, basically the name of this game mode, and then you can see this node called cast to game mode underscore tutorial. Now, casting is a whole nother thing. Casting is pretty complex, honestly, I would say for beginners at least. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just the only thing that you need to know is that if you want to, let's say, access any functions which are inside, or any events rather, which are inside another blueprint, if I want to access any functions which are inside this one, this blueprint, I want to access those inside this. I'm going to have to create a node which is going to cast this blueprint to the other one inside which we have events. I hope that made sense. Even if that didn't, it's perfectly fine. You're going to learn that eventually. But yeah, so that's that. And again, I'm going to connect this to this, and then this to this. Like that. And something like that. That should work. In the object, just know one thing that we're just gonna do get game mode. Just
止まらないこのままじゃ今よ今も超えていくから未来は水色に変わって
just write get game mode and just do this. You don't need to understand what exactly this does. This part I'm not really gonna get into too much detail because I know this is pretty confusing for beginners. For now, I would say just like copy as it is. Eventually, hopefully, as you keep on learning, you're gonna understand why exactly these are used. But for now, I just don't want to confuse you with all the explanations and all that stuff. So just for now, just copy it as it is. But if everything you did was right, it would just work perfectly, right? So what we have done so far is that in our viewport, the moment the character is going to overlap with this, I'm going to go to Minecraft, it's going to run this event, right? The moment it overlaps, and then it's going to cast to game mode, and it's going to take this U1 event from there, and what is inside the U1 event is going to invalidate the timer first, and then it's going to create the U1 widget, right? But we got to make sure to do this before you lose the game. So I'm going to just set the timer to something like 15 seconds. The character is going to overlap with this. My bad. I'm going to go to event graph. It's going to run this event, right? The moment it overlaps, and then it's going to cast to game mode, and it's going to take this U1 event from there, and what is inside the U1 event is going to invalidate the timer first, and then it's going to create the U1 widget, right? But we got to make sure to do this before you lose the game. So I'm going to just set the timer to something like 15 seconds, just to make sure. So that we don't lose the game before winning. And now, with everything saved, with everything compiled, we're gonna play the game. Let's see if the U1 functionality works. And so U1, perfect.
これ無理や。
All
こにしよう。コリジョンが効きすぎてて。
Perfect. We won the game, and so you can see that the time. Second. We're gonna have you won. In the you lost event, what we can not lost the game. So if lost game question mark is false, it's at the default value, then it's gonna display this widget, right? So if statements inside of Unreal Engine 5 are called branch. So if I just search for branch, you can see this thing right here. And we can just basically add this in the middle of these two nodes. And so this condition right here, you can plug in whatever condition you want right here. So I'm just going to take lost game, drag it here, get lost game, and then I'm going to plug this in like that. My bad. I'm just going to put it right here. Perfect. So now if this condition is true, that means we're not going to do anything. If it's false, then we're going to do stuff, right? So we're going to take the false and plug it into this. And we're going to hold control on our keyboard and just like drag this away and just click anywhere else just to remove that connection, right? So once the U1 event is called, it's going to check if you've already lost the game or not. If you've not lost the game, then it's going to run all this stuff. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything, right? But the problem right now is that we're not really changing the value of lost game ever, right? Because it's going to start off as no and it's always going to stay no. So what you want to do is that when the uLost function is run, after all this stuff is done, all we need to do at the end is we also need to set the value. value of you lost. Set the value of lost game to be true. That's all we need to do. That's literally all there is to it. I hope it made sense. I'm gonna explain it once again in just a minute, but I just want to make sure that it works first. So we're gonna wait for the you lost. We're gonna wait for the you lost widget to be displayed first. Okay, perfect. Now if I go near that, you can see that nothing is gonna happen. Even though we overlapped with the box, nothing really happened because we have already lost the game, right? I hope it made sense. So basically what we're trying to do is that we're gonna just, once you lose the game, it's gonna set this variable to true, and it's just gonna make sure that this variable is not true before winning the game. I think it's pretty basic logic. I hope it made sense. Yeah, that's that. And let's go ahead with the logic. So the next thing that I want to work on is basically displaying the timer on the screen, because right now if I play the game, you can see that we don't really know how much time we have remaining, and obviously you want to have a timer on the screen just to know how much time we have remaining, right? So what we're going to do is that we're going to basically duplicate any of these widgets. It doesn't matter which one. We're just going to duplicate them, and I'm going to be calling them timer underscore widget, right? Or what we can do is we can just call this HUD, HUD, heads up display. So basically, if I just call this HUD widget, the reason why I just called it a heads up display is because we're gonna be adding health and all that stuff later on to this as well. So what I'm gonna do is, or what we can do is we can just call this HUD, HUD, heads up display. So basically, if I just call this HUD widget, the reason why I just called it a heads up display is because we're gonna be adding health and all that stuff later on to this as well. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just going to call this time remaining, right? And obviously I'm going to make it like very small, something like that. Okay, and then what we can do is we can just Control C, Control V, copy it, and this I can just do 0 0 for now, just for for a placeholder value, and I can just increase the size of this. Something like 120 should be good. Good. And just place it right there. There. Is the time remaining slightly up as well? Perfect. One thing that you want to make sure, I think it's too big actually, maybe 100 should be fine. That's better, I think. One thing you want to make sure to do is basically if you want to place these on the bottom left hand side, for example, make sure to change the anchor to the bottom left as well. Just select the bottom left. For both of them individually, just make sure to do that, otherwise it's not going to be displayed properly. Just move it down slightly. Perfect. So now the thing that we're going to be learning is how exactly do you change these values based on sort of results from something else, right? Because obviously so far the widgets that we've seen are essentially widgets which have the same exact text or the same exact elements on them. And so those are easy. This one does require some Blueprint programming, so we're going to be doing that in just a bit. But yeah, it's pretty simple actually. So what we can do is we can just select the number and then we can go to text, and you're going to see this thing right here, this chain thing right here. If you click that and click create binding, it's going to take you to change these values based on sort of results from something else, right? Because obviously so far the widgets that we've seen are essentially widgets which have the same exact text or the same exact elements on them. And so those are easy. This one does require some Blueprint programming, so we're going to be doing that in just a bit. But yeah, it's pretty simple actually. So what we can do is we can just select the number and then we can go to text, and you're going to see this thing right here. This chain thing right here. If you click that and click create binding, it's going to take you to this Blueprint editor thing right here, and you can essentially just do some Blueprint programming in this and basically get whatever value you want inside this text. So what we want to do is that we want to basically, if I just go back to my blueprints and if I go back to my game mode, you're going to see that what we're trying to get is essentially this time remaining thing right here. But for that, in order to get anything from this, what we're going to have to do is, you guessed it, we're going to have to cast it. At first, cast to game mode tutorial like this. Object, in the object just search for get game mode and just plug that in like that. And so as game mode tutorial, what we're going to do is that we're going to get time remaining like this, and from there what we can do is we can just